Hello and welcome to Fly Nubian Queen. I am Lala, your international real estate agent and your host for today. And today we're diving into a topic that is stirring up conversations all across the country. And it's involving family court, child support, and how it's impacting the Black fathers. Recently, Tyrese has been vocal about his own struggles, claiming that family court is biased against fathers, especially Black fathers who are successful. It's not just his story. We're hearing similar stories across the board from other Black men all over the country. But today we're asking, does child support hurt Black fathers? And how does family court reinforce outdated beliefs like the tender year doctrine that still favors mothers in custody in these rulings? And today I am joined by my co-queens, Moya, our tax professional, Lindsay Vertner, our international mindset coach and speaker, Marlo Layson, TV film producer, and later on we may have a surprise. Hi, ladies. I'm so glad to see you. I was absent last week and I missed my girlfriends. So before we move on, I want us to see the video that Tyrese put out so that we can kind of get the conversation started and get the basis going. So let's see what he's got to say.
Are you not aware of the damage that you caused? Shit. Let me spell this out for you. When you said this, when you did that, when you treated me like that, when you left me like that, when you this, when you this, when you that, can I call you and tell you about it? And if I call you and I tell you about it, are you going to be able to own and be accountable and actually process the trauma that you caused? She ain't got no way of doing it. But I just got another letter from her lawyers requesting that I send over all of my tax returns and all of my bank statements because she's trying to get $20,000 and I think they're trying to take it up to like 40. And they've been looking at all of my movies and all of the concerts and shows that I've been doing, and they're over there like blood-sucking lawyers rubbing their hands. And Samantha's doing the same thing, rubbing her hands, and they're going, oh shit, you know, for the last year and a half, he looks like he's been doing really well. Let's go ahead and get them bank statements over here so we can figure out a way to get this law firm another $600,000 that we're asking for in legal fees.
Ladies, first off, my thing is what really passed me outside of looking at the $10,000 that they want him to pay is the $600,000 legal fees. And I want everybody to understand that Tyrese has two children. He has an older daughter, and he's also paying child support on as well, and the younger daughter with his wife, the ex-wife he just spoke about, Samantha. So I actually want to just get your initial responses on this before we dive in. So Marlo, what are you thinking?
Honestly, I wanted to hate this topic so much, y'all. I wanted to be mad. I wanted to not care, but I feel really bad for Tyrese. I think that there is a weaponization of family court and child support that we do see that is very real. So I'm just kind of mad that he made me change my mind because my heart was so hardened to Tyrese Gibson for so many years. So I'm just kind of mad that he is making me feel feels for him. But it's a precarious situation. And I'm glad that he's sharing because a lot of men with a lot of less access and that are lesser known are going through the same thing.
Yeah, I think we all have people in our lives that have been battling something of this nature. Maybe not as much child support that they're asking for from those who are considered wealthy, but we do know people who are fighting this, somebody in our family, even a friend. Lindsay, how do you feel about this topic? And how do you feel about his reaction on initial video?
Yeah, I agree with Marlo because I was in that space, the popular memes. Oh, what more do you want from me? I was laughing right along with them, and I still use that meme to this day. So now I feel bad because he was just expressing some of the things that he was going through, the anxiety. Oftentimes Black men, they aren't allowed to express their emotions. And so then when they act out like this, it becomes a laughing stock, just as it did when he first was posting all the videos. So it definitely made me feel bad and realize, like, man, he's really struggling with some things, and he really needs some help on the therapeutic side. He needs some help on the legal side of things, because it's not looking like it's in his favor. And unfortunately, that's the story of a lot of Black men going through these things.
I think we all have a bias, especially against celebrities. Sometimes we think about, oh, they just make so much money, blah, blah, blah. This doesn't matter. But honestly, in the scheme of things, we're going to look at what his net worth is later. And then we're going to come. Well, here it is. Tyrese is worth $4 million. And I'm here to tell you guys that coming from Los Angeles, California, I have sold houses for $4 million. And they ain't all in Beverly Hills. I'm trying to tell you. So that amount of money to me, compared to what he's paying for this child already, and he is paying quite a bit for the other child as well. I don't know the exact number, because I did see several different numbers, and I don't like to report on things that I'm not really familiar with that's real popular, but he is paying a lot for his older child as well. Moya, what were your initial thoughts when you saw this video?
So I have to say, I'm not moved. Like, I'm moved by the situation. Like, I'm moved by, there's a real issue that Black men face with child support. Boom. But with Tyrese, I'm not able to go there. I feel Tyrese uses the media as a source of manipulation. I believe he understands how to play us like a fiddle. I believe that he knows exactly what he's doing. Like, let's say, and she's looking for 40,000. I just want to break down that number so we understand. Let's say he really is worth 4 million. It might be more or less. If we divide that by months, that means he earns over 300,000 a month. Obviously, that number is wide. We don't know, how much he earns. Is it all in one bulk? We don't know how he earns it, but let's say that's what it is. 300,000. And we're saying he's not able to pay $10,000. Like, I think it's important that we separate the plight of Black men and the Black fathers and Black family from what Tyrese is telling us right now.
Okay, so I see everybody's point, but I also want to throw a cog in the wheel a little bit. I understand the breakdown, and Moya, that was excellent, by the way. I'm glad that you did bring that in, because that is, when you really break it down like that, you do think, okay, well, what it is. But we also know that a lot of the times, a certain amount of money has to go out to even support what you are doing. And especially when actors aren't making as much as they used to. And we have been shown recently by a lot of actors who came out and showed just how much they got paid for what they're doing, that is just on paper. It's not always something that is equaling what's in your pockets right now. So here's my concern. And the fact of the matter, what child needs $10,000 a month? I don't understand what you would do with that. I mean, 10, 20, 30, I'm at some point, I'm like, well, how much does a child need? Yes, I know there's a delicate balance, but what do you think is fair with that, Marlo? Do you think that there should be consideration about what it really does to raise that child? Are they wearing golden shoes and golden diapers? Because I don't know what I would. That's a lot of money.
Well, I think it definitely, there should be a consideration, right? You should look at, what the child is involved in, right? Because some of these women may be getting this money and your child is not involved in some type of AAU basketball or having some type of private lesson to make them great at something, right? Some people may just be out here living lavish and posting Birkin bags on the internet. I don't think that that's the overwhelming majority of women, obviously, but I think that when you get into this, as Tyrese referred to himself, these high value males, and just high value people in general, right? As if all people don't have some form of value, but I won't get into that. Once you get into these situations where people have this money, right? They're just looking at the percentages of what child support is. So I don't know. I think it's exorbitant to me. I don't think that I've ever spent $10,000 a month on any of my children. But also, that wasn't my lifestyle. So I managed with what I had.
Right. I will tell you guys, I had a very good friend who she made good money, and so did the guy. They were trying to co-parent, but he all of a sudden became absentee and she really needed some help. And she went to court, and this was in Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm talking in the last year. And don't you know that judge awarded her only $50 a month? And she was struggling. She was struggling very hard. So there are two sides to this. And he just came in and said he wasn't working, but he was working pretty much under the table. So he had no proof of what he was making. So she had to suffer from that. And it just kind of went downhill from that. But I actually want to hear from a lot of our audience because we do have some great comments here. And I want to touch on a couple of those. Janine said that Tyrese and his attorney should request an itemized breakdown to have her show why she needs $10K a month. I think if they're asking for his tax returns, then she should also be breaking down what she's paying for the child as well, to be fair. I have to agree with you, Janine, on that. And Shonda actually said, I read his ex-wife Samantha was trying to get the child support raised from $20K to $40K. Totally ridiculous in my opinion. And he did mention that in the video. I don't know, outside of private school tuition, a 5-year-old would need that much. And then Eric Williams, we like to hear from some of our men. Men, we want to hear your comments too. Like, this ain't all just one-sided. We like to hear everybody's comments because this is a conversation that needs to be had. And Eric said, of course it's a weapon. It's their number one weapon, even when they are wrong. I want to know if you're a little biased about that, Eric. Can you tell us if you have any experience with that as well? And if you are just now joining us, before we move forward anymore in this conversation, I want you to know who you're watching. You're actually watching Fly Nubian Queens, and we love to have conversations with you. We are here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you don't want to miss a show, like a lot of our regulars here, we appreciate you. You want to make sure you text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. And if you can't join us live, we definitely would love for you to take us on the road with you because we are on Spotify. Go on over there. Hit the like button. Give us 5 stars because that's going to help us be seen by other people as well. But I also want to let you know, because we're going to hit some more comments. If you want to come on and be a guest, we are very open to that as well. All you have to do is email us. It's simple. It's at info@realvirtual.net. And that is spelled REELVIRTUAL.net. Woo! Okay, ladies, when you think of child support, and I'm going to direct this to you, Lindsay, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? And is it really about supporting the child, or does it feel like a punishment for fathers? I'm ready for some comments on this too. I will be looking for these comments.
I think its intentions are to support the child. However, I feel like it's unfair for both men and women. And I really think the whole thing just needs to be blown up and starting over from the foundation and just reworked on how they configure child support, on what the mom is doing, what the dad is doing. Because if we look at history and statistics and everything, a child actually needs both parents. Yes, they definitely need the mom. Yes, they definitely need the dad. But the healthiest child is whenever they can have 2 healthy parents and they get something from both of them. And we have to remember that we often, well, not me, the courts often forget. And, they want to favor the mom often. But I don't have any personal experience with child support cases. But I know a lot of moms that are like, oh, $50 a month, like you said earlier. Like, what is that going to pay for? My kids will eat through $50 a month in a day, let alone a whole month. So I understand that. But then I also hear stories where guys are like, man, they're taking literally all that I make and I can't even, survive on my own because it's all going to child support. So I feel like it's unfair on both sides.
I think it can be. And what about custody? What about those who are pretty much have like 50-50 custody? You still hear both of them paying some type of child support. So I don't understand how that works if it's a 50-50 situation. If anybody who is watching us is in that situation, we would absolutely love to hear what you have to say about that. Moya, so do you think that the family courts are actually understanding the unique struggles of Black fathers, or are they out of touch with the reality of our lives in our community?
I think to some extent it appears that they're out of touch, because one thing that we have to separate are the people who are actively attempting to take care of their kids, right? And they get laid off, or they realize I'm not able to pay this amount. And Big Mac brought up something super important, which is, hey, they don't need to go to jail. Now we're talking about jail. Like, how did we get here? But these are actual laws that are on the books and that happen to our Black men. So that part is when it gets to be out of control, especially in the sense of, when stimulus checks were released, some of these men didn't get their stimulus checks. So what do they do in this instance? But that's very separate from the man that said, hey, I'm out of here. I don't want any part of what's happening here. And you're left to raise this child or children on your own.
Well, we did have a comment, which is really interesting. We had a comment by Eric who said that his earnings are irrelevant. It doesn't cost that much to raise a child, and she can get a damn job herself. Well, she does. She actually has a 6-figure job as well. She does work. And let's look at the other part of the video, because he does kind of break down a little bit about what she makes as well, and where her sources are from. So let's see what else he has to say before we move on.
I just got an email from my attorney, and my ex's attorney name is Adam Gleckman. He's the devil. She divorced me 4 years ago, August 2020. And she makes over $100,000 a year, close to 150, 160 at this point, because of all of her Instagram, social media. And he came to court, and they literally said in the courtroom that they've only got $5,000 from Samantha for representing them, for representing her for the last 4 years. They've asked her to give them $5,000 because she married a celebrity, she married a high net worth individual, and they're over there rubbing their hands, banking on a pot of gold. I'm out here stressed the fuck out. She divorced me, and they're rubbing their hands over there, hoping that I do more concert shows, movies, so they can go online, look up all the movies that I just booked, and they're trying to get to the bottom of what actual money is in my bank account so that they can put it in their law firm's pockets. This is a dirty fucking game out here, ain't it?
I'm sorry, that's a lot of money for legality. I need to know what y'all feel about that. Marlo, do you think that they have just gotten completely out of control with these legal fees? Now, you're already asking so much from someone, but he is also saying that the attorneys for her, Samantha, has only gotten paid about $5,000. So that's a big difference between $5,000 and $600,000 for legal fees. What are your thoughts on that?
That's the part that kind of confused me a little bit when he was saying that, she paid one thing, they were asking another thing. He brought in his own personal value as how they were evaluating her legal fees. So I felt like in that part, I kind of tuned Tyrese out because it felt like Tyrese doing a Tyrese thing to me, and I wasn't having it. But if they are trying to play some type of long game with his money and this whole child support debacle, then obviously that's probably an ethics violation, right? I don't know Georgia law, but it sounds like they're skirting a fine line between being ethical and unethical. But that part I didn't understand. But somebody said something about going to jail, and I guess we'll touch on that. But this whole child support thing is just, we definitely need to relook at it. And it's a state by state basis, right? They probably were married in California, divorced in another state. He lives in another state. So then you get into that, right? Because every lawyer can't practice law in every state. So you got an LA lawyer, but now you need a Georgia lawyer. It's too much. And I think that the court system is definitely exploiting all of this, because every time you go to court, there's some type of fee involved.
I know, and it's very expensive to even just get a retainer. We had a comment from someone in our viewers saying they paid $2,500 just for a retainer. And I don't know very many people who have that kind of money laying around. Also, Avid Lock says, I think it depends on the state. My friend is in New Jersey and they have a 50-50, so no one pays support. And we were talking about what happens if the parents has 50-50. I'm curious to know, if that would change if one decided feeling like they were pulling a little more weight than the other. I mean, let's just face it, this is not an easy situation. I think a lot of the times we talk about, who's paying what and who's doing what, but I have a problem with the fact that he is coming so publicly with this, where his children will possibly see this. Like, I know the older one, she's got to be on social media. So how does this affect them? What effect? You're talking about parents, you're talking about money, you're talking about things. I would feel some kind of way if my dad was out there telling our business in the streets. So my question is, why are we as a society clinging to outdated beliefs? And we were referencing like the tender years doctrine, which favors mothers in custody of the battles. And shouldn't we be fighting for more equal approach? Moya, what do you think about that?
Well, I think an equal approach is important. As we discussed, I think it's important that the law allows for more evidence on both sides. But one of the things that I think is also important is that, for the most part, in the way that society is structured, it's two ways. One, Black men don't earn dollar for dollar that a white man earns, right? So I think it's so important in this day and age, especially when we talk about Tyrese, is to separate Tyrese from the struggle of what's happening to our Black fathers. It's very different. Tyrese, as you said, Lala, the daughter might feel a certain type of way about all of this coming to the forefront and everybody talking about what he earns. Does he not want to pay for the child? All those things are real things. I think that if we separate it out and talk about what's happening to Black men, yes, we really have to look at this outdated, antiquated way that the law is forcing Black men to pay child support, while it may not be, it has to be looked at more holistically. Yes.
We can't hear you.
I was getting down with the comments too. Moya brought up a really good point. She was talking about Black fathers. And I do want to direct a question to our audience as well as the panel here, because we do try to talk about our communities. Now, Tyrese is claiming that child support laws unfairly target successful Black men. So do you think that that's true? And why do you think that success can turn into a weapon against fathers? Lindsay.
I would have to say, I don't feel like he's using the media to manipulate anything. I just feel like he's using the media, like that's his outlet to express his emotions. And, Moya was right. Dollar for dollar, Black men do earn less. And I don't think that they should be going to jail for this, because how are they going to pay if they can't work because they're in jail? And I just think that goes back to that systemic racism, because we know that, now they're in jail. Now it's even harder for them to get a job, and it's even harder for them to pay the child support. And whether you're making $4 million or $4,000 a year, there are still disparities between what a Black man makes and what a white man makes. And they're using all of that because we know that the system wasn't built for Black people anyway. I mean, if we really want to get honest about it, the system was not built in favor of Black people in general. So then when you have our Black men going to court for child support cases, it just makes it that much harder for them to just survive and to be able to take care of their children.
Listen, I go away for a week and now I act like I don't know what I'm doing. This is ridiculous. I don't mean to mute myself. And you also have to take into account what, that you have to live on as well. But I want to pull up some of the comments. There was a post that Tyrese did as well. And I want to address what his post said, because it kind of looks at some of the money. And then I want to address some of the comments that were said. So Tyrese is saying that this judge illegally tried to bring a $10,690 child support payment from California that I'm giving my 17-year-old currently to Atlanta for my 5-year-old. Wow, y'all, that's a lot. Now we're doubling. They have illegally cracked my prenup agreement. And he also states that without a court order, started giving his ex $3,600 a month and child support for 1-year-old at the time prior to going to court. Now, what he's saying here, I'm not going to read this whole thing. What he is actually saying here, y'all, is that this judge has gone out of his way to do things that he considers illegal and that he's being very biased against him. And what was very interesting to me about that is I went through the comment section and there was an attorney from that area who said he was an attorney from that area. We always say alleged. But he says he felt like Tyrese was telling the truth because he knows this judge and he basically goes after Black fathers. So do you think that this is that most judges just assume that, or do you think they're biased against us in the first place? And how do you think that we can get that into a contained part? I mean, each judge is different. So Marlo, what do you think about that? How can we balance that out when each judge is different? It's kind of a different scenario.
Well, it's kind of twofold, right? So first of all, a biased Southern judge, unbelievable, right? But secondly, each judge has his own just kind of level of jurisdiction. That's not the right word, but the judge can kind of make a determination in the case, right? There's the law, there's what the law says, there's the outcome based on what the law says, but then the judge can kind of interject who they are and make hopefully sound decisions based on the evidence that's there, right? What you can't get past is, like Tyrese tried to say, the judge and the lawyers are good friends, right? And it happens. Judges were attorneys. So of course, judges and attorneys will be friends. You would hope that they would be impartial. I don't know enough about Georgia law to say that this is a huge conspiracy. I don't know anybody that's gone through the child support process in Georgia with a wealthy man. So my knowledge base of that is very, very low. But I will say, if Tyrese feels this way, there is an attorney general in the state of Georgia. And if he feels that there is something amiss within this whole process that he's going through, he should take that up with them. But Tyrese is also a misinformed voter. So we got to take it with a grain of salt coming from the actual source, right? And Tyrese has been loud and wrong about things in the past. And a lot of times people don't understand the court process because they're so pissed off about having to be there in the first place. Most of us don't want to be in court, right? And so when you're there, if you don't have an understanding of what's going on and you're not asking questions and you're not looking up things as they're saying all these legal words and talking over your head, then you will be lost. And if you feel like you're the victim, you will be victimized. But again, I don't know enough about what Tyrese is going through and Georgia law to be able to say he's getting the short end of the stick, because there are also wealthy men who pay these exorbitant amounts of child support and don't say anything about it.
Very interesting. If you're just now joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we have the tough topics that we all need to talk about. And I love being able to come on with my queens and also talking with you. We love what you got to say, so keep the comments coming. But if you don't want to miss any of our shows, it's simple. All you have to do is your little assistant right here. Go ahead and text in the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. Get it together, Lala. You need coffee. And then also, if you want to get your money right and your money tight, because obviously Tyrese needs to take some of our courses too, because somebody ain't telling him what he needs to know. You need to go on over to flynubianmoney.com because we have a lot of free financial resources, courses, and more. And if you just don't know where to begin when it comes to saving money, put your money here, where to invest, we have a lot of things that you can get there for free. So please go ahead and go over there and get what you need to get so you can get your money together, because you know what? Everybody needs a little green in their pocket, right? So we hear about Black fathers being financially devastated by child support rulings. So how do we balance supporting kids and not punishing fathers? Moya.
So the one thing that I really want to highlight, and I think it's important, is when I want to go back a moment. When I said Tyrese manipulates the media, I mean when you go out and tell partial truths, therefore to let people think in one way versus another. So he made a really bold statement when he said illegal, like they illegally went into my are doing these things against me, while he has access to really great attorneys. So I think that those things are important to highlight. So it's important to look at that. Now, when we talk about what can Black men do as a whole, it gets to be in a really, I like to say, precarious situation, just because now we kind of move into the area of where you can allocate your money. And I don't want to say hide your money, but where you can allocate your money. So that way the courts don't see all of the money. And so that's the part that, I think we can look at, but that's the area that I feel like it starts to shift into a negative space because it feels like you don't want to pay.
And that's true. But then I also go back to how he's claiming that this judge is biased. And we have some information about this judge. We've already heard that someone in his Instagram post was like, no, I know these attorneys, I know this judge. But there is a Michigan lawyer that was removed from the bench after being recorded saying that Blacks were lazy. So this kind of shows us the mindset of a lot of the people in power. I mean, we're in a political year. We are hearing all sorts of things battling back and forth. And to me, it shouldn't matter. You should still want to be able to spend time with your kids. But when this is the type of thing that we're battling, how is it something that we can move forward from as a community to support the Black fathers as well, and to also make it a perfect balance? Lindsay, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, because we often forget that there's still a lot of systemic bias in family court systems. They have the implicit racial biases, which can lead to unfair rulings against Black fathers, like we just saw with the lady on the screen. And so when that happens, Black men are often viewed as less capable, as less involved parents, which can impact their custody decisions whenever they're increasing the child support or deciding to send them to jail, which then makes the Black men often be alienated from their children. And so we have to remember that segregation just ended in 1964, 60 years ago. And I know it might sound like this is a random stat, but it plays a part in this because we like to picture slavery and segregation and all those things as eons ago, and nobody was alive from slavery. But my mom was born into segregation and she's not old. So like all of these racial biases are still present, and they're still present in the court systems. They're still present in the family systems, and they take a toll on mental health. They take a toll on Black men's mental health and what it is doing to the family system altogether, and how the relationship with the Black male and his child is going to play out moving forward. So we have to figure out how can we adjust the system so that we can have a little bit more things in our favor, because as it stands right now, there is still a lot of implicit racial biases, and not so implicit with the lady that was just on the screen, who was very direct in what she was saying. So we got to get these people out, and it's like we've come so far, but we still haven't come anywhere. So
I have to agree with you on that. A lot of times we think that the things that we talk about, were just 50, 60 years ago. And honestly, that wasn't that long ago when we were still battling for things. We have to keep things in perspective time wise. But guys, it's not just Tyrese. We have another gentleman who has some words about this. So let's pull him up and let's see what he's got to say.
I'm getting served with papers for back child support. And I had been giving her money the whole time. I would just give her cash. I would send it to her account. But I wasn't paying it through the state. Like whenever, so they basically went in and said, all right, well, you didn't pay the state of Illinois. So basically you didn't give her nothing. And I'm telling the judge, like, look, I got documents. These are receipts from cashier's checks. This is over $1 million I've given this girl. They're like, no, that was a gift. If you didn't give it to the state of Illinois, that was a gift. I'm like, are you serious?
All right. At least it seems like some of us was able to hear the video and some of us were not. But that was an ex-NBA player who was saying that he was giving money to his baby's mother outside of the court, and that still he felt like it was unfair to him. So were you able to hear it, Marlo? So I know that Lindsay, you also heard it as well. What are your thoughts about that? I mean, he's giving money without being forced to do it, but still yet now things are not favoring him when she wanted to move forward to make him do support.
That just goes to show you how antiquated our system is, right? There should be a way, and in certain states there are. The partner that I'm with right now, he went through a divorce in the state of Texas. Texas automatically puts you on child support. Like you have a divorce, they don't even ask. She went back because he takes care of his children, but he's an entrepreneur. And she basically sent the state of Texas a bunch of receipts, and they eventually absolved him of the child support obligation because it wasn't her request, right? So every state is different. It sounds like the state of Illinois is the super antiquated one of all, because even in little old Louisiana, you can say, hey, I pay for this child's healthcare costs to this amount. I'm paying for braces every month. Like you can offset those costs. So the fact that this system doesn't always allow for people to say, like, $1 million is not a gift, y'all. Come on, like, let's be for real, right? You giving a child your own personal child, however many thousands of dollars a month for however many years, and the court gonna say that's a gift, that's a joke. And that is why when we have judges on the ballot, your brother had a bag go in the family court with somebody, we need to write that name down. When that name comes on the ballot, that person needs to be up out of there. But the reason that this stuff persists and the reason that we're able to do this is because, again, I keep telling y'all till November 5th, you're going to get tired of me. We neglect local elections. These judges that are making these child support determinations eat at the same restaurants that you eat at. They frequent the same ballparks with their kids that you are frequenting. They are in your community. They're not far away people, and they're not appointed by higher ups, right? We elect them, or we neglect to elect people who will take care of us, stand up for us. And when something isn't wrong, they can look at it and say, you know what? That's effed up. Let's figure out a way to change this.
I will never get tired of you, Marlo, because you and I are on the same page. I keep telling y'all, pay attention who y'all voting in, because a lot of times y'all go in and vote big ticket. You don't even know what else is on the ballot. You better be paying attention to these things, because that does affect you. Now, Moya, you raised your finger. You said, what you say, Moya?
I was over here having church with Marlo. I'm like, preach, yes.
Because it's true, guys. I know everything politically affects us all. And if we want to see change, we all have to be the change and to demand better of those of us who we put into office. I do want to address a couple of comments. And Lindsay, I want you to give me your thoughts on this comment. Living Tiny says, hey, you pay to play. If you date or marry a so-called high value female and high maintenance female, then she needs $10,000 and some only need $1,000 a month. What are your thoughts on that?
See, whether we're talking about child support or not, there's always a difference between needs and wants. There's a difference between basic needs and the things that you prefer. It's like some people might prefer ramen noodles and some people might prefer, I don't know, PF Chang noodles. But they're still noodles. It's just which one do you want to eat? And so does she really need that much? And at the end of the day, we have to remember it is about the child.
Yeah.
And I know that there are different standards of living between somebody who is your regular, degular person living in a small town of Indiana or something versus somebody who is living in LA where a 1,200 square foot house could be $4 million, whereas in Kentucky it might be worth a quarter billion or 10 billion or something like that. So I messed up those numbers, but y'all get what I was saying.
I know both of those things, and you're pretty much right.
But it comes down to, what does the child need? Child support should not be paying for your nails to get done, paying for your trips, paying for you to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, it comes to, what are the basic needs of the child and how much does that cost where you currently stay?
I agree. I totally agree on that. We always have our Big Mac who comes in. Big Mac, we love you. We thank you for being here. He says, I will say one thing. If you are a man in this position, you should be talking and protesting to your local state representatives instead of complaining on social media. Now, I think he agrees with us queens on that, because I think we all agree that that is what should be happening. So it's kind of hard to separate celebrities and men, because honestly it does go toward how much you make a lot of the time. So somebody's $1,000 a month is someone's equal to 10,000 a month. And I think that what we forget is sometimes we have to look at the amount that is being asked for compared to what someone is bringing in. So I want to ask our audience, I want to ask our viewers, I don't like to call y'all audience, I like to call y'all family, because you are family. I especially want to hear from the men. Men, if you were in this situation, such as Tyrese, take out all the emotion, take out all the crying, okay? Take out all the things that he's done in the past. I want to hear what your solution would be in the situation if you were hit with this by a judge and you knew you were doing everything that you were supposed to be doing in the first place. But I'm also going to ask Moya, how do you feel about that? If you take out all of the jewels, all of the bedazzled, all of the diamonds that the media like to put on, or however much is going, what do you think would be the solution for fathers in these situations?
So are we also taking out the money in terms of how much he earns? Or are we
No,
saying,
that has to stay on the table, because we've already established the fact that we're going to talk about what is equal to what you're making. In this case, he's saying it's too much. Say a father makes $100,000 a year and they're asking him to pay, $5,000 a month or whatever, so it's like in comparison to what he makes, and it's a little much compared to the cost of living. How would you change that? How would you address this?
well, I think there's a couple things. I think it's always going to feel like a little too much, right? Nobody wants any money coming out of their paycheck going somewhere else that you feel like you have no control over. So that part's always going to feel like too much. I think the question really becomes is, how do we want to take care of our children? What do we want them to eat at their house? Where do we want them to live? What school do we want them to go to? How do we want them to feel about themselves when they go into that school? Meaning, like, what types of clothes do they want to wear? Shoes, like all of these things go into deciding how you want to raise your child. So Tyrese brought up a good point in saying, hey, I have a daughter that lives in Los Angeles, and that's where I got that $10,000 determination from. But this child lives in Atlanta. That's a very different type of, in terms of what the cost of living is. So I think those things take important consideration.
I think that's a very valid answer, but there are also other people who have answers for that. And before we dive into what someone thinks they have the answer for, I want to remind you that you are watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you know you don't want to miss us. You don't want to miss anything that we do because we talk about everything that's important to our communities. So text the word Queens, Queens, to 87948. And then make sure you run on over to Spotify. If you can't catch us live, you always can catch the replays. So go over there and then make sure you look us up there, Fly Nubian Money, and give us 5 stars. Take us on the road. Take us with your jog. Take us to your walk in the evenings so that you can talk to us because we talk back. Don't be surprised if you hear us in your ears sometimes because, you know, that's how good we are. So we are talking about child support and is it affecting Black communities specifically. And I asked Moya what her solution would be. I've asked our family what would the solution be, but we have someone who thinks he has an answer. So I would love to hear what he has to say. And when he comes back, Marlo, I want to hear your initial thoughts on what his solution is.
Okay, 6 kids, 4 different baby mamas.
Yeah.
How'd you get away with only paying $900?
Drop some free game on y'all. If you are in business, it's better to have an asset lawyer and get asset protection. Also, you want to get an S corporation, not just the LLC, but a corporation, because the corporation separates you from your personal self. So if you get paid from your corporation, what that mean? You pay yourself. So let's say if a girl tell me that she gonna get all this money from me, and I say, you know what? I just want to make $500 a week. Judge, you need my check stubs? Right? How much is that a month? $2,000? Baby, oh, I got more kids too. I'm on child support. So, you know, you going to get what you can too out of it. Do you want to go that route, baby girl? Or you want to keep getting these racks? Be smart, man. It's about being smart.
Marlo! Marlo! What kind of mindset?
I guess that's how you get to have $1 million mindset. You don't want to spend no money. Like, that's what it sounds like to me. This man is stacking all his bread and he is paying out $100 a baby on the child support. You ain't getting nothing else. Send them over here if they need Jordans. That's what it sounds like this lifestyle is. And I guess, I mean, listen, everything he said is perfectly legal, right? The S Corp, the way that works, the protection of your money. This is what I'm going to say to the brothers that's watching. That ain't for everybody. It's not. That is not everybody's situation. Everybody's not going to be able to get away with that. If you lay down and you have these kids and you out here like Future and Nick Cannon, pay where you lay. Because if not, if you don't pay today, we all going to pay tomorrow. We all going to pay tomorrow because your child is going to be out here in the street, not doing what they're supposed to do. They're going to be a problem at school. They're going to be a problem in the community. Take care of your children today and don't play these games. Don't try to play this millionaire mindset. Put the money in my pocket. You want a Birkin bag or you want $100 a month in child support. Don't play these games. If you have the baby, don't look. What did Michael Jackson say? If you can't feed the baby, then don't have the baby.
Right.
Listen, right. It's like in '84, y'all. Michael Jackson been put us up on game and people still being silly. And I just don't understand it.
Well, Double A says, don't mess with the legal stuff. Go through the courts, right? Always go through the courts because you know what? A lot of the times they're going to find all that stuff out anyway. And then I think you're going to end up in more trouble than you think that you were in the beginning, because there are ways that they can find out that information as well. Okay. Even high-minded other people in the other communities getting caught doing things they ain't supposed to be doing behind paper. But ladies, we have a special guest and I love it when we bring guests on. So we're going to bring on Anthony. And he is our special guest today. He's an author and a financial professional, and his name is Anthony Jackson, and he'll be joining us and giving us his comments. Hi, Anthony. We're glad to hear from you today.
Hey,
hello.
how are you guys doing? Can you hear me?
Great. Yes, we can. Welcome, welcome. Now, listen, you're the man on the panel, all of us ladies, and also our family who's watching. We've had our own comments, but I would actually like to hear what your thoughts are as a man on this subject.
So, I mean, you guys are have a plethora of subjects that you're talking about. I think if I was pinpoint one point, a lot of times the issues with the court, I think one of the women said it on here, is there's going to always be an implicit bias. You have race and things of that nature, but you're also going to have a slant. Even when they identify or create a situation where there's a male and a female type of mediator, things of that nature, there's going to be a slant because, from the standpoint of just so just people in the world, the male is always on the other side. So a lot of the times it's about preparation and being a viable force for yourself in that courtroom. You know, if you go in there, you know, you don't have a stable living situation, you don't have tax records, you don't have answers to how that child is going to be taken care of when you're occupied. You don't have the type of you don't have your situation outlined better than the woman has it. You're already at a disadvantage. I think a lot of the times unpreparedness leads to frustration, which leads to a lack of a consistent unpreparedness, because these aren't one situation things where you go into court and it's over. You usually have an opportunity to mediate or to bring a third party or multiple third parties in prior to it getting into this situation, unless you're hit with a child support order outside of your awareness. And even on that end, use the resources. A lot of times we're not even aware of the resources. And I think one of the key places to start is probably like, your local NAACP, your local Urban League. They may not be where you find the resources, but what happens is that's the place to start your networking. It's a networking journey. You run across people that have similar situations. You run across men who have been where you've been through, got through it. Me personally, I have primary custody of my youngest child, and I never had any type of court situation with my oldest child. So, I've been through it. I've sat through these mediations. I've been judged with a slant, but I was always prepared. I always had my stuff in order. And in conclusion, my son's with me 7 days a week. So
So you have experience in this situation. I mean, you fought for your child, and you have your child. I'm sure it was worth every bit of the struggle that you went through. So I have to commend you on kudos on that as well. So we are really glad that you're here. And I think that you're right. You have to be prepared. Be prepared for this. We actually had someone who said, if you're not ready for a child, you need to make sure you strap it up. So is that something that you would recommend for people? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, there's a lot of loving going on without the gloving going on.
well, that's
So
that's
do
with
you need to
anything
pay
in
the
life.
piper?
That's with anything in life. You're responsible for what you do out in this world. And I think oftentimes we want to lean the responsibility to the left or to the right instead of being accountable for our actions. And then, you have, you know, this staying between the parents. So oftentimes it's not necessarily a logical negotiation period. So being confident enough to bring somebody that can either be an intermediate between you two, to alleviate the emotional disconnection or connection that's causing the conflict, can often lead to better conversations and mediation between the two of you. And not necessarily guaranteed, because sometimes some bridges have been burnt a long time before you got to that point. But I think taking advantage of that. And one thing I will say is, with these resources, be very key in understanding that. It's not free to play. You may get these free resources and they may be beneficial, but they're foundational pieces. You're going to have to come out of your pocket. You're going to have to spend for the person that's going to fight for you. These free lawyers only have so much fight in them. These free resources only have so much time to give you for free. And it's not that they're not helpful, but the level of help that you receive from someone that's assisting you versus someone that you're employing are two totally different worlds. So if you're going to fight this battle, from a standpoint of either you want to balance out your child support or you want more custody or whatever it is you need in your place as a father, um, make a game plan. Identify where you're at. That's the first thing, is do a self-evaluation. Where am I at? Am I really prepared to take on the role and responsibility I need? Am I financially stable enough to do what I need to do to support the child? Secondly, take the action steps to resolve those issues. And then third, find out what tools you need to bring to the courthouse or the mediation table to be a factor. You know, your attitude, your negative energy is going to totally take you out of the situation. So you kind of have to leave that at the table and really, oftentimes find someone that can speak your voice for you, so that you don't even have to do too much talking.
I think that's all excellent information. As with life, period, you always should be prepared. You're going to be prepared for a job interview. You're going to be prepared to go in and ask for a loan for a house. You have to be prepared in everything that you do. So why not be prepared when it comes to our children and what we fight for them as well? I want to know how you feel about the courts automatically assuming that mothers are the best for the child. Anthony, I'm asking you that. And it kind of piggybacks off of what Lance said in our comments. He said one of the problems is automatically assuming the mother deserves primary custody and the father doesn't. The father has to prove while the mother doesn't. So how do you feel about that whole, how the court's just assuming that is the way it should be?
One thing I've learned as a man is that this isn't a fair playing field. So is it fair? No, I don't think any of us can say it's fair. I think there's some reasoning behind it. The ideology that the mother is the nurturer and has, just genetic foundational things to provide to the child. Um, Also, all the resources are primarily set up for the mother as well if there is a financial situation or stigma with the household. So I think because of how the secondary resources are set up for single parenting, um, it kind of plays in line with that. We can go and delve into even deeper things into the psychology of it all, but for the most part, it is unfair. But it's the reality of what we deal in. Like we can, this is my thing, and the thing I learned a long time ago. You can fight the minuscule battles that will never create any type of victory for you, or you can fight to win. And I can't fight that battle. I can't fight the bias. I can't fight the unfairness. I can't fight the things that exist in this role. Now, in an external state, if I want to go to the attorney general and start some type of movement to do that, that's a totally different realm. But when you're dealing with your personal issues, you can't fight the system. You have to fight for your position within the system. And I think, paying attention to those small things that can't change only complicates your end goal.
Anthony, I think you see all the women are here going, "Mhm, mhm," because you are giving us some really good information from the other side. It's real easy for us to talk from a feminine side, but it's also really excellent to hear from the masculine side as well. And we are very grateful for having you here today to discuss this. Ladies, I would like to hear some of your comments of some of the things, what stood out to you the most and what Anthony has shared with us today. I'll start with you, Lindsay.
First of all, kudos to you, Anthony, because you are a perfect example of Black fathers being present. There is this negative stereotype that majority of Black fathers are not present in their lives. And yes, we have those issues that we're dealing with that were placed upon us from systemic racism and all of those things. But stats also show that more Black men are actively involved in their children's lives than others. And so, we have to remember those things. Like the millionaire guy, he stressed me out, okay? Because $150 a month, my daughter's cheer fees to cheer at school were more than $150 just to get started. So let me not go off on that tangent, but I would hope that he is actually being more involved in taking care of his children than just that $150 a month, and that he's actually doing what he needs to do outside of that. But I say all that to say there are a lot of Black men that are actively involved in their children's life and desire to be actively involved in their children's life. And we have to remember that. And if we want to change the way the court systems are set up, we gotta, like Marlo always says, get out there and vote at those local levels and help people to find the resources that they need. Because like Anthony said, the resources are there, but you gotta find them, because Black men are at a disadvantage as far as lack of legal representation, lack of finances sometimes to get the resources that they need. And just kudos to you. Kudos to you. Okay.
Anthony, you have a response to that for us?
No, I just, I appreciate the affirmation. Definitely, as I mentioned, as I said earlier, just take advantage of yourself. You are your biggest ally, and you have a brain, you have time, you have the energy necessary to do what it is you believe, what it is you say you want to do, and that's the other key, is what you say you want to do, really what you want to do in your heart. Because if you're gonna fight, you're gonna fight till your fingernails is coming off. Otherwise, why'd you get in a fight? And that's the other key. Like, are you willing to do what's necessary to put yourself in a position to be where it is you want to be, or have your family situation in alignment with what it is that you believe in?
I agree with that. Boy, this has been a deep dive. And of course, we've only scratched the surface, but we at least got a conversation going, which I think is very important to do in our communities. Because how are you going to get up any kind of solutions if you don't sit down and talk about the problems? And this hour just went so fast, but I'm going to start asking everybody their final thoughts and where can we find you? And, I'm going to start with our guests. I know you've been talking a lot. We kind of sit back and listen to you because we felt it was very important to hear your side and your voice. So what are your final thoughts, your advice to those? And if you want us to follow you anywhere on social media, where can we find you?
Definitely. I would say my final advice, as I mentioned, is preparedness. Be prepared. Do your research. Find people who have a similar story. Create a network, and fight the battle as you need to, and don't be discouraged. It's very easy to be discouraged. It's very easy to be put in a position where you just want to quit and give up, and F it and things of that nature. But don't be discouraged. Sometimes you got to reevaluate and reevaluate and reevaluate in order to get yourself to the position where you're able to fight fairly. So that would be my thing as far as the imbalances in the courthouse. You got to fight them like you fight anything else. I think the young lady talked about the attorney general and things of that nature. Find those resources, speak up, network, figure out who it is that has an ability to be your ally, and make them an ally. Be beneficial to them, and they can be beneficial to you.
I think that's excellent information. We thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your side and your perspective on this. Marlo, what are your final thoughts and where can we find you?
I just like to say thank you, Anthony, for sharing your story. I'm really encouraged to hear somebody that just, fought to the end, right, to get the means, which was to be the primary custodian of your son, right? And I applaud you for that. So there's not much I can say after that. To everybody out there, children are not pawns, y'all. Let's not use the child to make this person mad. Oh, we fell out. I'm not rocking with him. You can't see your kid. That stuff is so childish. And I promise you, in the end, the only person that loses is the child, right? You're depriving the child of one of the parents because you mad because your feelings are hurt, or vice versa, right? Sometimes men break up with women and then they don't want to even be involved in the child's life. So let's stop playing these childish games with our kids, right? If we really believe that kids are the future. If you're looking for me in the future, I make content under my name, Marlo Layson. I'm all over the internet trying to hold the state of Louisiana and other elected officials accountable. I am also on Instagram. If you want to follow me, I am Olram Marlo _ That's my first name backward, then forward, then a little underscore on the end.
Love it. And we always love what you have to say. And thank you for fighting the good fight, Marlo. We love that you do that because it's worth fighting for, right? Lindsay, what are your final thoughts and where can we find you?
My final thoughts, just want to address a comment by Americ, I think the name was, where they said that, if Black men are active in their child's lives, then how are they filling up the prison system? Well, the two things aren't mutually exclusive, right? So not all Black men going into the prison system are fathers, but a lot of the Black men that I know and have watched and observed and saw over the years are very active in their child's life, or at least desire to be, or are fighting to be active in their child's life. And even the ones going to prison usually have a desire to be active in their child's life. So the things don't have to be completely separate. Two things can be true at the same time. But with that said, we have to do better. We have to do better. And just, it goes back to that mental health, being mindful of healing ourselves and the responsibilities that we are making whenever we do lay down with somebody, and being prepared mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually to take on raising a child and all that that comes with. So those are my final thoughts. My name is Lindsay Vertner, international mindset coach and speaker, and you can find me at liveafirstclasslife.com.
Thank you, Lindsay. And our beautiful Moya, what are your final thoughts and where can we find you?
So
You're good. There you go.
What Lindsay said is super important. Like, that's an actual statistic by the CDC. When they did research, they found that Black men, compared to other ethnic groups, are the most active in their child's life. And so I think that's important to highlight. One of the things, just as Anthony was an example of, is we have to focus on our family. When we bring up our family, our whole community, everything that we desire to grow grows. And so it's difficult when you're facing everyday challenges, but if we remember to keep our family first in terms of what we expect from our children, what we want from our child's father, and what the child's father might want from the mother, how can we keep our family intact so that way we can raise children, as Marlo said, that are not going to meander down the system that has a path already laid for them that is not the same path that we want our kids to go down. So I think the family has to be first whenever we have these conversations.
Where can we find you? Unmute.
Moya.business on Instagram.
Great. And I have to say this is my final thought. You know, money isn't everything. Yes, we need to have money to live, but people and children and their experiences are more important. If you're so busy fighting and arguing, what are the children hearing and what are we putting into their hearts to help move them forward in a positive way? Some of these things need to be kept inside. Some of the things we do have to share because maybe someone else is going through the struggles. But as my mother used to say, be careful of little ears. Because they don't need to be drug into things that are adult situations. They need to just be children, because you only get that one time in life. And I am Laura Lala Key, and you can find me at bit.ly/Laura Key Info. You can find everything there. I have free resources for you there: international real estate, buying real estate in the US, and free resources about maybe getting ready to save for a house. So I'd love to see you over on my platforms as well. Ladies, we have had such a wonderful conversation today. And I know we started out with a little bit of teasing Tyrese and all those things, but honestly, this is a real matter in our communities. And I think that we addressed a lot of things that we could be talking about. And a special thank you to our guest, Anthony, for being here today. We appreciate your time. And we really appreciate the fact that you came on and you told your story, because your story is going to help someone. Whenever you open your mouth to tell your story, somebody else is going through the same thing. So we thank everyone for being here. You have watched Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you don't want to miss us, all you have to do is text the word Queens to 87948, and you'll get a notification when we go live. Now, we also want you to please support us on Spotify. So go over there and find Fly Nubian Queens Money there. Fly Nubian Money. I keep seeing my queens and I want to say queens. It's Fly Nubian Money over there, and you make sure that you follow us and give us a 5-star rating there. Now, one more thing, guys. If you want to get in, like Anthony came in and actually told his story, we would love to have you. All you have to do is email us at info@realvirtual.net. That's REELVIRTUAL.net. And finally, if you need your money right and your money tight, all you need to do is get some free resources to help you get up on game. Just go to flynubianmoney.com. We have plenty of financial resources and courses and so much more. We thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everyone who has put in their comments. We thank you to our people who are always here. And guess what? If you're new here, we appreciate your time as well, because you could have spent it somewhere else. Ladies, I will see you tomorrow. I hope you all have a blessed day. That goes for everyone who's watching. Thank you. Bye-bye.